Hey everyone, welcome back to Connecting the Dots. I am so happy to have a friend from middle school and high school on the show. It's wild how we've gone totally different ways, ended up in different states, in different career paths, but reconnected on good old Instagram when we kind of both found out that we were in the health and wellness space. So really fun catching up before this conversation and excited to catch up more. So Alyssa, would love for you to introduce yourself and share with the audience a little bit about you.
Yeah, thanks, Kath. I also forgot we went to middle school together. But yeah, so nice to reconnect. So my name's Alissa Salvitti. I'm a chiropractor and a traditional naturopath. And I've been practicing for 3 years. I have a wellness center in Westchester, Pennsylvania that I started right when I graduated. Yeah, and I do chiropractic, nutrition, lymphatic therapy. Those are my main services. So
Hey, I can't wait to dive into all of them and hear a little bit more about your journey, what it was like opening up a practice right out of grad school. Before we hop into it, I've been asking everybody the same opening question this season, which is what is a daily ritual or habit of yours?
So I really like this question, by the way, because I'm always talking about what we're talking about on Instagram. I'm always sharing like my daily health habits, but like one that I actually do every single day would be praying slash gratitude, like that type of stuff. So that's really helpful. And I do focus a lot on like mind, body, spirit type stuff for myself. So praying is one. And then from like the, holistic natural health side, taking my supplements every day. So those are two staples.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Do you pray in the morning, throughout the day, before bed, or is it just kind of like I just know I'd get it done during the day, or like where does it fit into your routine?
It's honestly, this is like sort of not bad, but it's anytime where I'm feeling stressed or like something comes up, I'm like, okay, switch to saying what I'm grateful for. Because it happens a lot. And I used to just go in like a do loop where I'd be like, this is horrible. These things are all going bad. So now instead I'll just like say a quick prayer or I'll be like, these things are going super well. And it like shifts your mindset immediately. It sounds kind of cheesy, but it works.
No, it's not cheesy
Um,
at all. And I love that. I actually my parents were just here over the weekend and we went to this like hat and boot store to get my mom her first cowboy hat. And they
That's
had
so
these
cute.
like little like saint plaques. And
Mhm.
my fiance and I always have the worst anxiety about leaving our dog. And there was one for the patron saint of dogs. And I was like, I need this because anytime that like I have anxiety about leaving, I just need to hold this for like 2 seconds and be
Yeah.
like, he's gonna be fine. It's gonna be
I
fine.
feel the same. I need to get that. Honestly, I feel the same way. I'm like, he's just a dog, but I can't help it.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're like the worst. I'm like, I didn't have the Furbo app on my phone for so long because if I was like, if I get it, I'm gonna be annoying about it. So
Yeah.
I say
Just
that because I can totally relate to being in those moments and be like, you just need to give it to somebody else.
yeah, it's so true. It's like, and I feel like it's always like control too. It's like I can't even control most of the stuff anyway. So yeah, not gonna get too worried. But
Yeah.
yeah, I love that.
So, since we haven't really caught up in a hot sec, what made you interested in pursuing chiropractic to begin with? How did you find that path?
Yeah, so when I was younger, I was like really into sports and that was like super important to me. And my mom started bringing me to a chiropractor when I was like 13. So like all through high school, college, when I played sports, I would just be like, "Oh, I don't feel that great going to my chiropractor." And I was drawn to it because I liked all the like natural side of things, like not as invasive. And then when you experience like the positive benefits, you learn through your own like stuff where you're like, "Ooh, I want to do that for other people." So that's what got me into it. And then I was really intrigued in just like having like a holistic, healthy lifestyle and like into all that throughout college and after college, obviously. So yeah, thankfully my mom brought me. So
God bless our moms.
yeah,
Has
I would say your mom's kind of like that too. Isn't she into like natural health? It's so nice because then you're like, ooh, like I like what they're doing. And yeah.
Oh, no, it's so fun. Also started to see a chiropractor probably around middle school too, when sports were
Oh,
getting,
I didn't know that. Yeah.
yeah. I know it's so funny. We were like doing this at the same time and
I wish we like knew
not
that back
not
then.
on our radar as 12
Yeah.
year olds to be like, hey, you going to the
I
chiropractor?
know. It would be really weird to talk about in high school. I know. I wish we knew though. That's funny.
No. So have you always been into health and wellness because of your mom, or did you get really into it, like you said, from sports, playing in college? Where did you finally really find that interest?
Yeah, so it was my mom later on, like she would have become like a chiropractor if she could have, but she didn't even know about this stuff. But she became like a health coach and like a holistic health practitioner. So growing up, she would like do my hair analysis for me. And like that's totally what got me intrigued. But then also like I was saying with sports and stuff, like I was always trying to be super healthy because of it. And even in like college, like my friends would be like, oh, like make fun of me. They'd be like, "Oh, she's bringing tea and like organic yogurt to the dorm room." Like everybody thought I was so weird, but like it was just normal for me because I was like that for so long. So I'm lucky she like kind of taught me the ways. But
100%. I'm jealous. I wish I had your mentality when I went to college. I was like, my mom's been crazy my whole life. Like, I'm
really,
gonna
yeah,
eat McDonald's and do whatever I want.
yeah, kind of let down. Yeah, well, I'm sure it was a good experience to learn. So
It definitely was a learning
yeah.
experience.
Yeah, I wasn't perfect, but I'm glad I like I'd have my supplements like in the corner of my room and I'd be like, oh, time to take my electrolytes. Like, so I tried to balance it out.
That's amazing. So you went to chiropractic school, and then did you always know you wanted your own practice? How did that start?
Yeah, so when I was in undergrad, I wasn't even like a science person at all. Like I was an entrepreneurship major
Oh,
because I knew I wanted to have a business one day. I just thought I would be going into like technology or like something that like my dad and brothers did.
yeah.
But then I was interested obviously in becoming like some type of a natural doctor. So that's kind of how I got into that at first, but it was just funny because I had to go take all these like prereqs for school and like, I don't know, were you always interested in science? Like, were you a science major? No. Yeah, that's what I was not interested at all.
Yeah, I remember, I don't know if we can put her on blast on the show in case by rare chance she listens, but do you remember our freshman biology teacher by chance?
Oh, something with a P. What was her name?
I'm not putting her on blast, but if you remember who she is, she told me
I
that
already know who it was. So,
yeah, she told me that I sucked at science and that I should not pursue any type of like science as a career because I was not like
oh my God.
mastering
I
honors
had the same
bio.
experience, same exact experience.
And that's kind of how I just said I will never do science. I was actually journalism in undergrad.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So same thing, freshman year, whatever biology, is that what we had? Oh my God, I remember like failing the first test and I was like,
Yes.
I am not doing this as a career in anything. I was like, goodbye.
Same. Well, funny now, look at us.
I know. Yeah.
But I also had to take a ton of prereqs
Okay. Yeah.
for
So
grad school. Yeah.
it's funny then when I went to take like chemistry and biochem, I was like, oh, this is not bad. I'm like, I don't know what happened in high school, but yeah.
Our high
Maybe.
school was just unnecessarily hard because
Yeah.
I agree. Like I took bio in college. I actually did
Mhm.
take that in at Maryland, but then I didn't take like chem or organic chemistry or all the other ones that I had to take afterwards. And I was like,
Okay.
it's not like the easiest thing, but I can do this. Like, why was
Yeah.
it so hard in high school?
Yeah. It's funny because that like set the stage where I was just like canceling out all careers like that where I need to do science courses.
Yeah.
Uh, but no, I was so glad. Like in college, I was just like, okay, I'm an entrepreneurship major, so I'm just gonna take a bio class and see if it goes well, I'll keep going.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what I did. But then I'm just glad I was an entrepreneurship major because that's what made me interested in starting my business. So Yeah. Then going to like chiropractic school, it was obviously long, like, like schooling like that takes a while. And
Yeah.
coming out of school, I was like, I definitely want to do my own practice. So I was happy. I was really happy. I was a business like background and stuff. It's helped a lot. So,
That's so cool how you're able to combine both of those things in your
yeah.
practice. What made you decide to add certified traditional naturopath to the docket?
So that, and I just finished that in like the fall, this past fall, but I'd
Congrats.
already been working as a chiropractor for like a year with my practice, and I was starting to do more nutrition. So I wanted to be more well-rounded with the nutrition certification. So I actually did like a detox certification first, and then I added in well, it took me like 2 years actually to do the naturopath one. But I'm so glad I did because they're paying attention to the whole body with everything they teach you. And I did learn some of that in chiropractic school, but I wanted to further. Well, you're like always learning anyway.
Yeah.
So I really liked the class, even though like I'd be working and I have to go home and do homework. I'm like, but it's cool. It was like stuff I'm interested in.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's like so fun too when you're able to apply what you learned in school to like real humans. And you're like,
Yeah.
this is actually
Oh
useful.
yeah, it makes you like when you apply it, you're like, oh, I did actually learn. Feels
Yeah.
worth it. Yeah, instead of just like unnecessary information, it was actually really good course and everything. So it's helped.
That's so sweet. And I think that a lot of people get kind of confused as to like, what's a nutritionist? What's a naturopath? What's
Yeah.
this, that, the other thing? So from your program, what are you able to do as a certified traditional naturopath?
So that definitely enables me to focus on nutrition for everybody who comes in.
Yeah.
Most people are chiropractic first, but it gives me the ability to be like, oh, hey, like actually when I tell people I'm also a naturopath, they go, oh, like, because usually they think chiropractor, crack everything and then I leave. But I
Yeah.
tell them that and then they know, oh, I can do nutrition with her.
Yeah.
So that definitely makes it more like, even when I'm like reviewing people's blood work or I do the different tests for them, it definitely helps. I do everything under my like doctor of chiropractic license, but it's still just good because I feel like it's helped with being more like well-rounded. So it's like the whole person.
Yeah.
Because I do think nutrition, and you obviously this is your career, but nutrition is so important. So I feel like when I was just adjusting people and sending them out the door, I was missing like a whole part of like their health where I'm like, oh, we got to focus on everything.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because my chiropractor that I see here in Dallas, he does adjustments like multiple people at a time. So
Okay.
I'll be sitting on a table and there'll be somebody next to me and he's like, well, what are you doing to recover? What are you eating? What are you drinking? And they're like this is all I can handle for right now. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair. Everybody is on their own journey or on their own path, but how impactful to be like, okay, yeah, this is where you're seeing pain, tension, whatever. How can we help your recovery outside
Mhm.
of this session? So I think that's amazing.
Yeah. And actually like a lot of the stuff too with chiropractic, like it's things they come to me that they think is just for chiropractic actually is nutrition. Like if they're like, I have osteoporosis, I'm worried about that's minerals and like, are you even assimilating the vitamins and the stuff that you're taking? So then I'll be like, oh, well, that's not just, structural and stuff.
Yeah, no, we need the whole picture, kind of like you said. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And you had said in your intro that part of what you focus on is the lymphatic system. And so wondering if you can touch a little bit on about like what that is and why you found that to be a really important piece of the puzzle when you're looking at people holistically.
Yeah, so that's like the third or whatever out of the three services. That's a main one. And I used to just jump in and start talking to somebody and be like, "Well, your lymphatic system," and then realize they didn't even know what I was talking about. So I ask everybody, "Do you know what the lymphatic system is?" Okay, but it's so basically what I tell people is it's a whole network of like organs, vessels, nodes, or glands in your body that have fluid, and if that lymphatic fluid gets congested from too much toxicity, then it stays stagnant. So that stagnant fluid holding the toxins starts to cause tons of health issues. So basically it's to make sure your lymphatic system is working properly, you've got to, detox the body and like pay attention to it. But most people don't even know that's what their issue is stemming from. So just even like educating people about it, they're like, ooh, that like maybe that is what's wrong with me. It kind of gets to the root of a lot of things. So
Totally. And I think it's so cool that you did a detox certification. So when you're working with the lymphatic system and helping people detox, what are some things that you recommend?
So first, well, something I do at my office is lymphatic therapy, like massage. And that's with like a specific compression suit. And it's actually really amazing. It like, it has infrared heat, so it like warms up the whole body. And then it massages in a certain direction because you have to move the lymph in a certain way. You probably know this to get it to drain. So it's very specific. So here I help people with that. And then I give them a lot of like homework to do regarding, I'm like, well, you want to maintain this, right? Like we've got to fix it. So I would say, what the biggest thing that helps people keep their lymph clear is probably sleeping. I realize a lot of people who don't get enough sleep at night, like that's when your lymph drains and you detox and your liver regenerates. So people who don't get enough rest, I realize they're like chronically swollen or puffy or just toxic, and they're always like, why isn't it clearing? What's wrong with it? So usually, of course, diet, but if they don't get enough rest, if they're not like grounded, so I'll tell people go stick your feet in the grass because that's like energizing your whole body. And then just like movement in general, right? Like that's what can help pump the lymph and keep it from getting stagnant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and there's so many things like dry brushing, hydrating, but it sounds like the most simple things where, sometimes you tell people like you need more sleep and they're like, yeah, I know, whatever. Like, but I'm like, no, like you have to dedicate, like make this a goal and it makes a difference. So
Yeah. In your opinion, for lymphatic health, do you think 7 to 9 hours is sufficient, or where do you think that falls?
it definitely depends on the person. If that person's getting like, if they're getting 5 or 6 hours of sleep, I'm going to tell them they probably need 9 or 10 because
Yeah.
they've been doing that for too long. So they've got to make up for it. If someone's getting like a solid like 7 or 8 hours, it's like, okay, well, you're probably going through some form of a healing cycle. So maybe just try to get an extra hour or two. So it kind of depends how long they've been like getting poor sleep because some people think that's normal. They're like, yeah, 5, 6 hours a night for how long? And then like we figure it out from there.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good point, because I think I'm sure in this world, it's like how much can you accomplish in one day?
I
And
know.
how late can you stay up to finish something, or how early can you get up to go to the gym or
Yes.
do whatever? So that's definitely helpful for people to hear. I think that
Yeah.
that's how you're
I mean,
running your life. You got to make up for it somewhere.
I'm sure you see it with patients. It's like, have you ever heard of like the rushing woman syndrome? Or it's like basically like they're in sympathetic on like fight or flight, and they never get out of it. That's like what I see all the time, especially with women, because they're trying to fit in so many things, but women actually need more sleep than men usually.
Yeah.
So just getting somebody to like know that is like the first step. Cause yeah, if you like emphasize it, they'll be like, okay, I'm gonna do it. It makes a
Yeah.
difference.
Oh, that's so helpful. PSA, get your rest. I feel like that's part of this whole theme of this season, not really intentionally, but talking so much about slowing down,
Hmm.
and how important it is. And so I'm glad that you're able to connect that to the lymphatic system.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a difference.
And grounding is so good. Dry
Mhm.
brushing is great. Nutrition, love that you said that.
Yeah.
Making sure getting enough B vitamins for sure. But and then what are your thoughts on rebounding?
Oh, I actually like that. So I have a lot of patients who say like, "Oh, I bought a rebounder." I've done something similar, but I feel like the people who come see me who are like, "Oh, I do it right when I wake up," like they notice if they're consistent with it, it makes a difference. Have you done that before?
Yeah, I actually, before I became a nutritionist, I worked with one because I was like, I should probably like know what they do.
Yeah.
And they had suggested that I get a rebounder. So I
Oh,
did.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I should get one. I do like that. Of course, I use like the stuff I have in my office. I'm like spoiled, so I'm like always doing my own lymph stuff. But for somebody at home, like to do stuff at home, I think it's great.
So
Yeah.
what is this compression thing that you have? I'm so intrigued.
It's so you've probably seen, and a lot of people have seen it, where it's just like these leg compression thingies.
Okay,
And
yes.
people will be like, with my trainer, and they have them doing these compression legs.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's just for circulation, and they'll do it for like athletes. But what I have is like a full body compression suit. And it sounds weird. And people, when I show them a picture, they're always like, like a little unsure. But then when you get wrapped up in it, and again, it like something that's really important with moving lymph is you have to go from like furthest away to closest towards your heart. So it's basically like going from your feet and arms towards the heart with the like massage motion. So it's really specific, but instead of it just being the legs, it covers the whole body because you have lymph nodes everywhere.
yeah.
So, and then the drainage points are for the lymph, you have to clear them, are like above your collarbones, like left armpit. So that's the difference in addition to that infrared heat. So it has the heat going, it like gently compresses the whole body to move the lymph. And people go in there and fall asleep like they've never slept before. It's amazing. So it not only helps them like detox, but then they finally get rest. Since I always talk about that, I'm like somebody who can't get 8 or 9 hours of sleep, I'm like, come do this lymphatic compression suit. Come do it for 40 minutes, and it's the equivalent to like 5 really good hours of sleep. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I was gonna ask how long people are in there. That is
Sorry.
cool. So when you dry brush, I was always told to start with your feet and brush up. Is that what you're supposed to do with that too?
Yeah, so that's doing the same motion.
Okay,
It starts at the feet and then it goes all the way up and then it cycles back. So it's got this like it's almost like a sensory thing. Like it puts you right into your healing state of like parasympathetic, which is rest and relax or rest and digest, instead of being sympathetic on. So I've got people like coming in and they're rushing, and I'm like, you have to do this because you got to get out of this like, fight or flight. And it really works. It's like amazing.
oh, I love that. And that's why when I teach a yoga class, the first 10 minutes is just calming people down and being there. I'm like,
Yeah.
we'll get to the power flow, we'll get to the crazy stuff, but like,
It's a good idea. I forgot you do yoga too. That's so cool.
yeah. So yeah, that's so sick. I need to learn more about this compression thing. Next time I come home, I'm gonna come to your
I was
place.
gonna say, come check it out and I'll
Yeah.
have you try it. You really like it.
Yeah, you can count on that. So we had kind of talked about getting into the parasympathetic rest and digest, and that ties really well into the adrenals and needing to have your body able to rest and recharge. Why has that been something that you've focused on and that you talk about on social media?
I actually, more through just experience with patients, I realized how common it is with like every adult and actually even children, like adrenal fatigue, or either like someone will either have overactive adrenals or underactive, and both are bad. Like you don't want either of those. So I've realized that through the hair analysis is my way to tell, and you can tell through the Dutch test too. But I just saw it was so common that people have like some form of adrenal fatigue. And that's why, because again, you can't throw so much at one person, like with the nutrition stuff. It could be overwhelming. So I always tell them, like, we've got to restore your adrenals. It's your whole energy, it's going to help you with certain hormones. And it's going to like be that thing that helps change, all this maybe stuff that's more chronic or been going on for a while. So I think I just realized through working with different patients, I was like, wow, this is way more common than I realized.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it goes back to kind of what we were saying, if people just always on the go, rushing, that is just going to totally burn out your adrenals.
Mhm.
And especially if you're stressed while you're doing all of that.
Yeah.
So what have you done to support the adrenals for some of your clients?
Well, first, I have them do the hair analysis test so I can even see, are you, yeah, and the hair analysis test checks your minerals in your body. Then that tells us about digestion, thyroid, adrenals, immune system. It tells you a lot. But the main thing I use it for is so then I can be like, oh, okay, well, you're in adrenal burnout based off of these mineral patterns, or maybe what you're lacking. And from there, I can figure out what they should really focus on, maybe diet wise, or maybe they do need to detox. Actually, okay, that's a big correlation I've seen is people with heavy metals or just excess toxicity have really like poor adrenal function. So that's where the detoxing side comes in. So then I'm like, okay, let's get you on like a detox program as well. And I'll help them figure stuff out that way too. But again, like resting, that's like the main thing. But right, like the whole idea is by, fixing their nutrition and rebalancing their minerals, then their adrenals are restored instead of just, I always say, like, think of it like basically like your mineral or your reserves. And over time, you keep dipping into your reserves and you're going to be in burnout, basically, unless you replenish along the way. But most people don't do that till they have symptoms of something. So you probably see it a lot where you're like, okay, like we're gonna fix it now.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. And I'm glad that you touched on heavy metals because I think
Yeah.
in social media world, heavy metals is such a hot topic and people are always
Mhm.
like, I need to get rid of these heavy metals. And yes, maybe, but I think people are just like really freaked out by them at this point.
Right. Yeah, it's like scary to think about.
Especially like it's hard because you want to inform people, but you also don't want to create this like fear of like, I can't
Right.
do anything because of exposure to heavy metals. So, what have you seen have been some of the most common metals that have come up on your hair analysis that you've run?
The first two, it's aluminum and mercury.
Yeah.
I see that in almost like everybody. And then weirdly for children, actually, maybe it's not that weird. It seems to be a pattern. High copper, like copper toxicity for kids. And then sometimes I'll see, depending on somebody's occupation, lead and like arsenic. Like I've had like a painter, like somebody who painted for a living, like had lots of lead. Maybe they worked with lead-based paint. I don't know, but
Yeah.
so mercury and aluminum for sure. Arsenic too. And then the first question everybody says is, how do I have that? And then there's a lot of things. Usually water is the main thing, but
Yeah, I feel like especially with arsenic.
because you did a hair test before, right?
Did, and I was actually very shocked. So when I did it, I had mercury amalgams in, and I was so shocked that my mercury wasn't higher.
Super high. Okay.
It wasn't. I was shocked, and they were like, "Well, I guess that means they're like sealed properly or whatever." But I've gotten them out since then.
Oh, you do. Yeah, I remember you telling me that at one point, and I'm like, what? Like, what dentist? You don't have to say the dentist, but for our age, that's not common. Like, they didn't do amalgams like that for us.
Guys, yeah, I know. I was probably, I mean, I had all of my adult teeth, so I had to have been like middle school when that happened. And I know a few people who have had like around our age who have had them removed since. Uh,
Oh, okay.
but yeah, everyone when I told people that, they're like, "Oh my God, I have fillings. Like, does that mean I need?" And I'm like, if they're silver, yeah. If they're not,
Yeah.
you're good.
Yeah, exactly. They still offer it too. I just had somebody who was going to get her kids' cavities filled, and she showed me the form from the dentist, and it was like amalgam option or composite. And I'm like, I can't believe they're even offering those. I'm like, you should probably go to a different dentist, first of all. Like, there's so many studies now where it's just like mercury seeping into your body.
It was really insane. I'm glad that we're kind of talking about this because I haven't touched on this on the podcast at all, but like the process of getting them out was literally crazy. they were all wearing like super suits,
Yeah, like hazmat
hazmat
suits.
suits. I had to have like 3 layers covering my body. They had to like seal my whole mouth with like this thing, and like the only thing that was uncovered was the tooth, which was just
Yeah.
crazy. And then I had oxygen in my nose, and then this giant, like, it kind of looks like the back of a dryer, you know what I'm
Okay.
talking about? But it was like hooked up to here to like suck out
Suck
any
it out.
mercury vespers.
Oh, like the fumes or whatever. That's so crazy.
And I was like,
Yeah.
that, like the fact that this has been in my body for 15-ish years, and
Yeah.
this is the protocol.
It sounds like they did a really good job though, because you have to go to the right person to remove it because it could be dangerous. So it sounds like they did a good job.
Yeah, they sent me the whole like research back protocol that they use. I go to a biologic dentist.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, they're great,
That's great.
but I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm signing all these forms. And like,
Yeah. It's better. And you probably didn't have high mercury on the test because you're younger. It's usually as people get older, well, you know this, the amalgams start to wear down and erode, and that's when you get the mercury into like your bloodstream and organs.
and that's why the dentist had said, I started going to them a couple years ago when I was like, okay, I'm probably going to be in Dallas forever. So time to stop traveling to Delaware to go to the dentist.
Yeah.
And they were like, we check on them every time. They're not cracking. There's like no signs, but they were
Mhm.
like, if you are going to want to have children, like we highly recommend you get them out before that happens.
Yeah.
So that's kind of was what was my push to get them out. I was like, okay.
Wow, that's interesting. That's what they said. I mean, that's great though. I'm glad you did it.
Yeah.
It's hard when I have to tell people that and they're like, what? Like if they don't have any knowledge whatsoever, they're like, is it really that big of a deal? Yes. I promise you it is, but I'm glad more people are aware now.
Yeah, totally. And then are you thinking aluminum is from like aluminum foil and grilling and water, or where are you?
Mostly water, the air too. People
Yeah.
don't know that as much. So I always say water and air quality. Can't really control the air, but you can definitely control the water you're drinking. So that's why, and it's hard because it's like you're trying to make things cost effective for people. So I try to give them the best advice. Actually, one of my tips for like healing the adrenal glands is just drinking lots of spring water. So you know it's clean and it'll help you clear the lymph and detox. So that's always a good one. But showers too, people forget because you don't filter it. Most people do not have a filter on their shower. But think about like that hot water opening up your pores and you're absorbing all that chlorine and heavy metals. And so I'll give people like recommendations for like, a cheaper shower head, just something like a carbon filter. Yeah.
Because we just moved into a house, I just got my first shower head filter, and I'm like
Oh,
embarrassed to
nice.
say. I'm embarrassed to say that I have not had one, but it just felt, oh, another thing when we're renting.
I know. No, at least you know to do it.
Yeah.
It's good.
I'm excited to see how that has an impact, because so many people say people with sensitive skin, that is like the best thing to do. And I have sensitive skin, so I'm like, okay, time.
Yeah. And then so do you have like city water or like public water?
Yeah.
Yeah, because then it's different too. If somebody has well water, it's like you should probably get it tested. But I do like tell people if you have city or tap water like that, it's important to do like I have a fluoride and arsenic filter add-on to my like regular carbon filter, and that's a good one.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
What do you use?
Right now I just have a Berkey, so that's
Right.
my main. I've used it forever actually. I wish I used it in college. I just didn't know.
Yeah.
But
We use the
what
Berkey too at our house.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
it's not crazy expensive, so but it's good.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, that's really helpful. And thank you for kind of sharing that, because I know every time people hear heavy metals, people are like, but what? But how? From where? And all that stuff. And I think it's also really empowering, because I spent a lot of time detoxing from heavy metals like 2018, 2019. And so it felt really good when I got my analysis. Now my minerals were messed up, but my heavy metals were all good.
Yeah, honestly, you kind of like chip away and like improve things, and then things start to really like you change your baseline of just
Yeah.
where you were. But I will say too, with the heavy metals, like you're saying, like on like social media or whatever, I see people posting about it a lot. It could be, depending on who you go to, you have to make sure they're doing it like in a safe way, because yeah, you don't want to dump, and you already experienced this, you don't want to dump all those metals into your bloodstream, and maybe your lymph is blocked and they're not clearing, so you reabsorb them. I learned that the hard way too when I did, like, I had a doctor put me on like a homeopath, like a homeopathic protocol, and I guess I was so sensitive, I like started having all heavy metal symptoms,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, time to back off. So usually whoever's helping you should know, but what I do is just really gentle. It's like more just improving your detox pathways. Then your body can actually get rid of stuff on its own instead of like having to force it. So I found that to be really good. So people don't have like crazy symptoms. It's very gradual and like safe.
Yeah. Yeah. The symptoms of detox can suck if you're not doing it.
I know. That's why I'm here to coach anybody who feels like weird, like anybody who comes to me who feels weird from a detox thing. I'm like, I'll just help you because personally experienced it in myself, and then yeah.
I mean, too. We'll have to connect on what homeopathy you use because after I got my heavy or the amalgams out, I did a homeopathy and it made me feel so bad.
Yeah, sometimes it's funny. I don't do as much, like I do more minerals and like some herbal blends, but you do have to like definitely be knowledgeable about it because it could be strong.
Yeah, yeah, I felt so bad. Um, and I was like, okay, I should have known better about this, but I just,
Yeah.
I'll just do this thing. But I needed to be more gentle. Prep a lot better for that. I was just like, oh, they're out. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So, can you go through what the process is like for somebody to get mineral analysis? Because I think that's one of the least invasive tests, which I think could be appealing to people.
Yeah. People like it for that reason. So it's called hair tissue mineral analysis. So it's literally taking samples of your hair, and you can almost equate it to a biopsy where it's a tissue sample, even though it's just like simple and you're taking little pieces of hair. That's how cool it is because you're getting so much information from something that's not invasive at all.
Yeah.
Uh, so usually I'll just take a sample. People are always worried about having like a bald spot afterwards, but it's like the littlest pieces of hair. And then, it has to be like if someone dyed their hair, I'll have to wait like a month to take it. But yeah, then you send it to the lab and they come back with this full report. And this is what makes it really interesting is from the moment you took that hair, that sample, your results are based on the past 3 months of your lifestyle, nutrition, like habits, stuff like that. So it's not like blood work, which is in that moment, that's what was going on with your body. This is more comprehensive, showing like, okay, from those 3 months, this is where you're at. And they give you like a full report. It's really cool.
It is cool. Do you ever have people redo it?
Yeah, so I always want somebody to, like, if they started a program, we'll do it for 3 or 4 months. I always want them to do a retest so we can see how they improved or what maybe we need to make a change with. And then I get people to like a point where they've, like I was talking about that baseline where like you've improved on a lot of things. You're not perfect. It'll never be perfect. But then they'll do it like during each season and be like, because you change every season. So especially after the winter, that's a good time to do it. So then somebody might do it twice a year from there. And yeah, kind of depends.
Yeah, I wish. So I did it with a nutritionist and I never got a retest. That wasn't part of their program, but I was like, I would
Okay.
like to see how things have improved or changed. So maybe I will do one after the winter.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would recommend it. And even like people who haven't done it for a year or two, and they'll be like, oh, can we just look back at that one? I'm like, no, like you're completely different now. but it's cool to compare. So if you have a little gap in between, it's still cool to look back and be like, oh, I was like this and now my body's it changed in these ways. So it's really helpful info.
So helpful. So do you think that that is like could be a really good option for anybody to do, kind of similar to like yearly blood work? Or do you think that there's like a certain demographic of people that benefit more from doing the HTMA?
I think it's helpful for everybody. I actually have a lot of children who do it. And that's what I did when I was younger. Like that was my wellness routine as a child. I was like, time to check my hair analysis. I was like so weird. But and I did it like once a year and it was so helpful. So for kids, it's great because you'd be shocked how many of them have adrenal fatigue where you're like, oh my gosh, it's a child. So it's better to start earlier so you can not wait till you're in your 20s or 30s and then dealing with problems.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great like preventive wellness tool. And I told you how I'm shocked how they have heavy metals and that, yeah, they're almost like more susceptible. Yeah.
That's what I've been seeing. So it would be really great to catch that then and be like, okay, what can
Yeah.
we do if there's high copper? Do we need to balance with zinc, or what's the root cause, or what's going on? So
Right, right. Yeah. And that's what I've seen too. The other thing with children I've seen is a main complaint is a parent will say they have ADD or they were diagnosed with something
yeah,
where I'm like, this could be total like definitely corrected with an adjustment and nutrition.
yeah,
So I really love those parents who are open to it because they're more protective of their kids, which is how you would expect them to be. But if they're like, oh, like they can do a hair test and then they're more interested.
yeah. Well, and kids will be more excited if the parents are doing it and they can,
Yeah.
or maybe not excited, but more comfortable might be the better word. If they're like, oh, like
Yeah.
you're doing that, you like it.
Or like their sibling. Yeah, they're like, oh, he did it too. Like I'll do it. It's really cute.
And just so nice that it's like so much less invasive. Like, I mean, I know some kids hate haircuts, but like
Yeah.
way better than a blood draw.
I know. That's what, yeah, I'm always like, oh, it's really not scary. I promise. They're
Yeah.
all good about it. But yeah, so I like when the whole family does it.
Yeah. I'm sure you can get some really good data too, because if the whole family is high in something, then you can be like, it's probably the water or it's probably X
Yes.
thing.
That's amazing. Yeah, so that I have that a lot with people. A whole family will be high in copper.
Mhm.
Okay, they probably have copper pipes in their house, or they are drinking the same exact water, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's funny because a lot of the times, like the husband who doesn't come in will be like, are you the person who told my wife we have to get rid of our piping or whatever? I'm like, no, I maybe there's a way around it, but it's just funny because you're right. It's like they have the same lifestyle, so they're gonna have similar health.
Yeah. I was so sick. What has there ever been a time where you had it run on yourself and you're like, I really need to make XYZ change, or have you always kind of been pretty moderate?
So with my result, the I was always like fine, but then it was like 3 years ago, I got Lyme disease really bad, and I did my hair test because I was like, time to fix my nutrition, and oh my gosh, it was horrible. It was horrible. I'm just having Lyme disease put my body under so much stress, and my thyroid, it was showing that I was like trending towards hypothyroidism, which I never had. It was showing I was in complete adrenal burnout. And it was interesting because I had really high aluminum. And it's just because, again, it's because my body was under stress from the Lyme bacteria. So my detox pathways just weren't working.
Yeah.
But I felt like out of control because I'm so used to being like regimented, like I do everything right. But then this thing happened to me that it wasn't my fault. I got bit by a like I got bit by
Right.
a tick. But it
100%.
was interesting to see as like a learning tool, like how drastic my hair analysis results changed. Where before I looked like a healthy, whatever, 25-year-old. And then after Lyme, it was like, whoa, like she aged like 20 years. It was insane. And again, it's never like a diagnosis, like where you're like, oh, my life's over. It's more to see, is your body functioning optimally? Do you have enough energy? And I didn't have any energy. So it wasn't shocking that like it wasn't great.
Yeah. And how empowering to be, instead of looking at it like, oh my gosh, how horrible and scary and awful, but like how empowering to be like, okay, I know what to do with this information.
Yeah.
I know how to support, or prevent hypothyroid here. I know how to support the adrenals. I know how to detox aluminum. And it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be this like permanent awful thing.
Yeah. No, and you're actually, I'm glad you said that because a lot of people, I always tell them this isn't a diagnosis. This is showing the way your body's going based off of what's happening in your life. And the point of this is to correct it.
Yeah.
Of course, I know everything because that's just my life. So I was like, okay, I'm like upset, but I'm not surprised because like if I didn't do this, I wouldn't be fixing it the right way. And
Yeah.
then like I'm just so grateful that like I did that and I had these tools. So I try to share it with people. I have a lot of people who come to me with Lyme. So I'm like, I'm so glad I had that experience as painful as it was. Cause then I'm like, I can help you. It's just, it's supposed to be motivating. It's not like a death sentence.
Yeah. Yeah, I needed that. I'm currently going through some testing and I'm like, okay, I know I can fix it. It's empowering. Like, stop
Yeah.
being afraid of what it's going to say. You already have an idea.
Do you ever feel like because you know a lot, like sometimes it can make you more fearful for yourself? When I talk to somebody, I'm like, you're gonna be fine. But if it was me, I'm like, oh no.
100%. It's like, I know exactly probably what's going to come up on this blood test, and I know the intervention that I'm going to do, but just like, I think it's also because I am so healthy and like I do try really hard, and people
Yeah.
know that it's my career, it's what I talk about. Like, I also am like, oh my gosh, if something's happening to me, then like they're going to think that I'm not healthy or I'm not credible
Right.
or XYZ thing. And I'm like, no, it's just life. Like,
That's what I tell people. It's literally like that. Like that's just how it is. And it really is like the mindset thing. Like when I had Lyme, I was so like I just felt so depressed. And a part of it was because of the Lyme. And I'm like, I know I'm recognizing that's not normal, but you've got to just like snap out of it and do like all these positive things that you know. And we're lucky we can like share that with people in like a positive way so they're not like, oh, I'm doomed. Yeah. It's cool to see because it's like, it's more exciting and you're like, I've experienced things myself, so I can totally help you. And I feel your pain, like you kind of have more compassion.
Oh, 100%. 100%. But this has been so fun. I feel like we could like gab about this stuff forever.
I know, yeah. I feel like once I get going, but I've been wanting to talk to you for a while, so thank you.
No, me too. Yeah, ever since I saw that you opened your practice, and I don't know if I said this when before we started recording or after, but I've been like, Mom, you have to go. So I'm so glad that she's been to your office.
Yeah.
I haven't been home for a long period of time in a long time, but it's on my
Mhm.
list to come visit once I am.
Your mom should come up. I would love that.
Yeah, no, we would too. But would love to kind of wrap up with our closing question this season, which is, what is one piece of advice that you would give your younger self?
Ooh, this is good. This is a hard one. Younger self. Oh, stop looking at the next big like hurdle. Like I feel like I was always like finished undergrad, like time to stress about the next step. Like it really is like super cheesy, but being present because then you're always going to be looking forward at whatever's next or whatever problem or thing you're concerned about. So I think that's good advice to young me. Stop thinking so much about the future and just get like, enjoy and get through what you're doing now.
Yeah, I mean, good advice for everybody because
Yeah.
it can be so daunting and also put you in that sympathetic state if you're all
Right. It'd be
freaked
overwhelming.
out about what's next.
Yeah, I used to feel like that where you're like, am I breathing? Like as you're thinking about everything you have to do. And I'm like, I'm not doing that anymore.
Yes, we love growth. And how can listeners reach out to you, work with you, find you, all the things?
I have my website is good because you can contact me there. It's True Balance Chiro, CHIRO.com. And then I have an Instagram too, that like how we connected, and that's also at True Balance Chiro. So
Nice. And are you all in person? Do you do anything virtual?
I do nutrition virtual. I send a lot of hair analysis kits to people in different states. I just mail it to them and they take the sample. And then I do nutrition consults like this, like telemed or over the phone. So obviously I wish I could do chiropractic virtual, but that's the only thing I can't do.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's helpful to know too. Yay. Thank you so much again for being here, sharing your knowledge, sharing your tips and your stories and your experience. I know that people are going to take so much away from this and are going to be excited to come visit your office, get an adjustment, do the compression.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, this has been so good. And then so
Yeah.
fun to catch up with you.
Thank you. And thanks for everything you shared too. I like love all your, obviously I like your information because it's the same stuff that I'm sharing. Like I'm like, ooh, that's a good point. Like, so thanks for everything you're sharing too.
Back at you. Yeah. After I saw you talk about the lymph and the adrenals and your morning routine and the milk that you use in the tea, I'm like, oh, we gotta get the girl on the show. So
Yeah. Well, thank you.
good. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Connecting the Dots. If there was something that really resonated with you in this episode, or you simply enjoyed the topic, please share it with a friend or leave a 5-star rating and a written review. Also, make sure you subscribe to Connecting the Dots on the streaming platform of your choice so you can be the first to listen when a new episode is released. For more information or to work with me, go to www.kathleencarney.com or follow me at Kathleen Carney Wellness on Instagram and TikTok. Follow the show on Instagram at connectingthedots.podcast and on TikTok at Connecting the Dots Podcast. I appreciate your continued support and I look forward to hanging with you next week.